put the engine together. Didn't really feel the need to record the whole process, but I just wanted to go over a few things. I had to adjust the valves for clearance about 5 times. It took about an hour and a half. There was 2 valves that were closed completely, so I couldn't get a feeler gauge in there at all, and so I had to order some from 2's RS. Didn't end up using 4 the 6 that I did order. This came out nice. The finish, so did the finish on the header. I used 1MZ exhaust studs and then shortened these so have a little bit of a cleaner look. What else? The AC compressor for the beams doesn't have this bolt going through on the other side, and for some reason I still can't figure out how to mount the alternator, but I'll get to that soon once it's in the car. And as far as the timing belt, it's marked, unlike the 3HGTE motors. There's a how-to if you guys want to look that up for how to install a timing belt on YouTube. It's like 45 minutes. So if you're doing it for the beams, you're going to install it like this with the Toyota symbol, Toyota logo like this, the lettering, and there is marks on it so you can't really mess it up. So that's very nice about Toyota to put that there. I just bench bleed this brake master cylinder, this Ray Bestos, because I was having some issues along for a while, so I just decided to buy a new one, and the hell with it. It wasn't as expensive as an original OEM one, but I think it's the best aftermarket brand that I could find. Mounted up the rear 3-point bar, tapped that hole, got it all set in, but it's not really holding the best. Hopefully it doesn't rip out any of the threads that I created in the future. Did the mounting port from the ground, used the same spot for the rear upper seats to hold the backing, so I got a good contact point there. And then I have the amplifier sitting inside here. It's all said and done. Kind of a pain in the ass to do some of these, but I got that done. And then I got the doors for the wiring, power from the amplifier. Then you have the tweeter and the woofer going into the crossover. The door cards are starting to come off a little bit on the corner, but unfortunately for the other side, I noticed that it was peeling and then it just completely fell off over the past 3 years. So I don't know, maybe I'll take it somewhere. They can make me a cover for that and glue it right over. And then this is the transmission from some guys in Miami. They shipped it over, installed a new slave, and then the heat shield. You're gonna try to lift, or we'll both try to lift.
Yeah, we'll see how. Yeah, lift it up, lift it up.
Just get out.
Mm.
Dude, what the fuck? This video. I know, but the problem is I'm going to lower it.
Right. No.
And then you can lower. I mean, tell coming like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like this?
Like
Okay.
pointing towards like this side. So like right there. Right there would be good.
There we go. There you go.
Go ahead. Dude.
Go.
So there.
Watch your fingers, bro.
What?
Yeah. Go.
Okay, I'm gonna lift super high. I'm gonna.
Can I step here?
Yeah, step like
Right there. Step closer to the
right
pole.
here. Yeah, like
Put like a piece of.
there we go. Are we in?
Yeah, I'm not doing anything.
Can you this
Back?
way?
Yeah. Is it clear over there, Gucci?
Yeah.
This is gonna clear.
Yeah.
So if you're clear, make sure you're not hitting any.
Which way am I going? Like this now?
Yeah. Or fucking here.
The cars are so
Okay,
complex.
look at this. This is loose. What is this? Can I just send it through like that? Help me pull.
Where, you want me to go inside?
Well, I don't know if we're trying to
yeah.
or remove the tape around it.
Got the engine in at 1 in the morning with my friend and my brother, and we had a little bit of a struggle. It took us about 3 to 4 hours, even with the engine leveler. We got it in at an angle this way. I had to remove these and push them a little bit that way, just to get it angled in that way. I messed up a little bit of the chassis where it was painted in this area here, and a couple spots on the battery tray holder and where this mount goes, but I didn't damage anything else against the firewall or any other spots, so I'm happy with that. Everything was somewhat easy, but the rear mount, I remembered I had to undo the rack and undo that side of the sway bar to get the bolts out for the rack, and then put the studs in for the rear mount and do everything by tightening it slowly. So it's all good to go now, and for some reason I lost the starter, but alright, so it's about 9 o'clock on the 2nd of January, and getting ready to start it. I was going to use the Miata battery that I've had on the car since I had it for a couple months before I tore it down, but it's only at 11.6 volts, and this one, spare one that I have here, so I should be able to start this up, no worries. And then this starter here is actually from a first gen TC, so it puts out 1.6 kilowatts versus the 1.4 kilowatts on the 5S and the 1MZ starters. So it's actually 2 pounds lighter. If anybody's counting, it should be a little bit better, more reliable, but I don't know if it's going to work because it looks like someone was denting the hell out of it just to get it started, which I got from the junkyard the other day. I almost started the engine yesterday because I was really eager, but I remembered that I didn't have any oil in it, so I just put oil. I'm going to put some transmission fluid in it. This is actually a GL4 type, which is recommended by factory, and most of the stuff that you get on the shelf is going to be a GL5. So to my memory, it takes about like 2.2 quarts, but I have it straight into the overfill plug, and with a pan under, that way when it starts to fill over, it will just leak onto there. Oh, not quite yet, I'm almost there at 2 quarts, or whatever, 2.2. This is a used transmission, and hopefully with limited slip, hopefully all the gears are good. They feel good right now, but driving is a different story. With 2 holes that are already tapped on the E56 transmission. Those are it's just looped up, but you can add a transmission cooler, if you will, and the E56 also has, I think, triple synchros on the 2nd gear, so it's an overall better transmission, and it has an internal pump that way it can pump the fluid through. This one's kind of weird why it has those holes tapped here. There's a S55 transmission on an all-wheel drive Toyota. I forget what the chassis is. I tried to find information on it, but I couldn't even get a picture. If you guys have any idea of the S55 or why those 2 holes are tapped, I don't know, just let me know. For the reference, it's been 3 years, 4 months, and almost 2 weeks since the car hasn't been turned on at all. So I didn't do anything internally, but I'm just a little nervous, especially since I don't have the full exhaust system on there. If I do hear any weird noises. For some reason the interior lights stay on with the battery connected, so I gotta figure out what I did wrong there. Let's see what happens. That could be the starter. On second thought, actually, let me get gas. I mean, there's still some in the tank. The light's not on, but it was very low when the last time I drove it. So the return line for the pressure regulator was not connected, so it was just dumping fuel. So this should be it. I think I'm just gonna wait. I think there was too much fuel being dumped into the rail. I think that loud pop was just a backfire from the extra fuel in the cylinders. The reason why the engine wasn't starting was because when we were doing the engine to get ready for the timing belt, I somehow did the 5 set bolts. When I put everything back together, I shifted it somehow about to the next set. There's only 2 ways that the BVTI mechanism on the intake side will actually bolt to the cam gear. So I had it incorrect placed, so I wasn't able to build any compression because there was actually the lobe here for cylinder 1 was actually compressing on the bucket, and it wasn't able to build any compression to start up the engine at all. So that was my only issue, and doing the timing belt basically and resetting everything within the car was pain in the butt. It took me about 5 hours, and this was the hardest part, getting this mount back in. So I had to undo the front mount and then the two nuts that hold the studs to the bottom of the center cross member. And for some reason, trying to get these two bolts through is a kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm just going to enlarge them a little bit, front to back. That way I have enough room to get the two bolts in without damaging the holes that are tapped on the frame. Let's see, this should be it. If not, then I don't know. Starts a little rough on the idle. Whoops. Started it without the VTI solenoid inside. I don't know why I took it out, but anyway. One more time, then I'm going to turn it off. Got this in the mail, and check it out. Ordered on the 8th and came in today on the 17th. Today's the 17th or 18th. And here it is. Let's see. Had the exhaust before, but they messed up the welds on the other one, so I gave it over to my friend who has a Kakimoto N1 style that I had him shipped over used from Yahoo Japan Auctions. That one was blown, or the resonator was blown, or the muffler, one of the two. So he took my old exhaust and he's going to use that muffler and possibly that resonator. Because everything else is bolt-on, basically the same system except for the muffler section on the Kakimoto. You can still order this brand new. Obviously, right-hand drive Japan is like the most reliable and the best option. Honestly, this section still doesn't make any sense. The OEM catalytic converter has the donut-style gasket, so I don't know why this section is flat. I thought it would be the same way that the catalytic converter is from Toyota. Apparently that's not, so I'm gonna have to cut and weld ready because you think it'd be bolt-on. I looked at the 3rd Gen 3 GE catalytic converter that I've seen on Yahoo Japan Auctions, but for some reason that's still the same as the Beams one and as basically the Toyota Tacoma one, the 4Runner, so the length is the same, 22 inches. This should come with all the hardware as well. This was $772, shipped here to California. It came EMS, which was the most reliable. If it had some insurance on it, I can't remember how much. But I didn't pay any extra for it. And I think those are the gaskets right there. I hope they are, because that's all the hardware. But if not, that's gonna really suck. Anyway, maybe it's in one of these things. So I did find the hardware. I don't know why it was stuck under one of the flaps. There's a couple of the flaps, and I moved it over, and yeah, here it is. I don't know. I assumed that I would have to take this exhaust piece to a place that does stainless welding, and that's pretty expensive. Usually like 100 to 120 bucks here in California, just for a little small section like that to weld on a new flange. But looking here at the diagram, there's 5 here, number 5 here for the gasket, and then there's number 4, and then they even separated it out in the hardware. So when you're taking a look here, you can see the two that go towards the rear of the car, and then this is the one that mates up to your OEM catalytic converter or test pipe, which I have. Looks like it's going to work, so that's not an issue, and I'm really happy I don't have to take it anywhere else. So it'll just be bolt on, straight on, and kind of excited to get this thing running very soon.